Story 1. I was dating a woman when I had symptoms of prostate cancer. I had a biopsy done, and they told me that when I went back for the results, I should bring a support person. That's always a good sign, right? My girlfriend came along and was with me when I received the bad news. We left the surgery, and she hugged me, saying, "No more excuses. You're moving in with me, so we can get through this together." And we did. Took me 3 years, but I beat it. Nearly 10 years after diagnosis now, I am clear. We've been married for over 7 years. Story 2, 1. She actively pursued me back, which is always nice. 2. When our flight was delayed and then canceled due to bad weather, she didn't stress out at all. She simply said, "Oh well, let's go home and see if we can reschedule." This is in contrast to my ex, who would turn into a giant ball of anger and anxiety if anything went wrong during travel because she had to plan everything and stick to the plan. 3. The smallest things make her happy, and she doesn't hide her enthusiasm, at least around me. Watching her light up just because a duck quacked back at her after she quacked at it makes me feel things. Story 3. My wife has 2 important qualities. First, she believes it's important for me to spend time with my friends. Second, she prefers to take a step back from arguments when either of us is upset, allowing us to have healthy conversations. Story 4. We were at dinner when she told our waiter that she had visited the restaurant the previous week for lunch when the electricity went out. They had sent everyone out with a free lunch because they couldn't process payments, but she insisted on paying for the food she received during that time. Green flags for integrity, honesty, and fairness went up for me in that moment. Years later, I have only ever known her to be honest and kind. She consistently prioritizes doing the right thing over her own feelings and desires. Story 5. Not playing games. I once met a girl online who was not looking to date. Turned out she was a wonderful person, and we were friends for years. With another girl, it seemed we were looking for different things, so I didn't try to move things along. She asked me out. Never in my life have interactions with people been as simple as with her. Story 6. I had a dog that had been with me through my 20s and was my best friend in this life. He started to get a little gray in the face when my partner and I began dating. A few months later, his legs started getting weak, and he was diagnosed with cancer. She fell in love with him and helped me administer his medication and keep up with treatment. We moved in together. I was having a tough time with it. This dog had seen me through some really rough times, including the deaths of close family and friends, a marriage affair and subsequent divorce, and getting my mental health together in the aftermath. When his legs completely stopped working, she helped me lift his hips so he could relieve himself and fed him by hand. I had a distinct moment where I knew she was my person. We are engaged now and have bought a house together. I don't think there's been a single time when either of us has questioned whether the other has our best interests in mind. It's remarkable and something I had never experienced before. Story 7. After dating for several years after college, we were hanging out with my college friends. We had all been drinking. She was talking with some of my friends and, not realizing I could hear, told them how lucky she was and that I was very attractive. Story 8. She said she is sorry, acknowledged what she did wrong, outlined the steps she would take to prevent it from happening in the future, and mentioned that if she does it again, she would appreciate being informed so she can correct her actions. She is the first and only woman to do that. The apology was sincere and genuine, so I married her. Story 9. A great communicator admits when they are wrong, is respectful to others, does not overreact to small things, and can decide what to eat when asked, "What would you like to eat tonight?" Story 10. Funny, interesting, smart, and genuinely nice people always impress me when I encounter them. Story 11. She understands men's issues and never made me feel bad for having them. I never received that empathy and understanding from anyone else. Story 12. We were newly dating while working together, and she insisted on cooking my lunches at her place and bringing them to work instead of letting me eat out every day. Home-cooked meals in a city where I knew no one were exactly what I needed. We just celebrated our 4th anniversary, and I look forward to many more together. Story 13. Same as most, Personal accountability means not blaming problems on others or playing the victim. Yes, some people are actual victims of abuse or other trauma. I am not talking about those. Story 14. We were circling the block looking for a spot to parallel park. I approached a questionable space, slowed down to assess it, and said, "That seems a little too tight." To which she responded, "That's what he said." Game over. Story 15. My current girlfriend and soon-to-be fiancé bought both of our drinks on our first date. It was only about $10 in total, but she did it without hesitation while I was in the bathroom. She didn't understand why I liked that so much, and I still don't think she fully realizes its significance, but it meant a lot to me. Story 16. The desire to learn how I want to be treated, rather than just assuming it based on her past experiences. Story 17. My girlfriend and I had a minor argument before we even got together, as we were co-workers. The next day, she brought it up and apologized for being grumpy. That is a positive sign, in my opinion. It is great to be with someone who has introspection and is not afraid to communicate. Story 18. Her apartment is clean. The bathroom is tidy. She folds and hangs her clothes, putting them away neatly. She has strong financial knowledge and does not simply make the minimum payment on her credit card. If she has a dog, she follows proper pet etiquette and cleans up after it. Story 19. I went on a first date to a dance club. While sitting and chatting with her, a guy approached to flirt. He extended his hand for a handshake, but she leaned in and said, "I'm with someone," while pointing to me. She didn't shake his hand. She just waved goodbye. Then he walked away. Story 20. I gave a girl a ride home from a social gathering. We talked for about 20 minutes during the drive. We were really hitting it off. I felt like she would probably ask me to her apartment or at least hang out in my car and talk for a bit. When we got to the gate, she said, "All right, you can just let me out here. Thanks for the ride." As I watched her look over her shoulder while she entered the code into the gate, I felt deflated. She almost seemed to be trying to block me from seeing her code, and I wondered why she didn't at least let me drive her to her apartment door. She didn't want me to know where she lived. I was offended, but only for a moment. My next thought was, this girl is smart. I just met her, and she doesn't know anything about me. She's different from the other girls I've dated. I need to know more about her. We've been married for 18 years now. About 10 years in, I told her how her behavior that night intrigued me to get to know her better. She admitted that she felt disappointed that I hadn't pressed her to invite me in or made a bolder move. However, she realized that there must have been something different about me and that she needed to get to know me better too. We both completely misread each other but came to the same conclusion in the end. Story 21. First date with the woman who is now my wife. She started describing, unprompted, the same business idea that I had been working on for a couple of years. I knew I had a winner. 14 years later, we are still winning. Story 22. My wife accepted me as I was when we met, despite my unhealthy habits. She never demanded that I change, which gave me the strength to improve on my own. Additionally, she is very attractive. Story 23. She apologized and took accountability. She was not influenced by her friends and cut them out if they crossed her moral code. Furthermore, she believes there is no reason to marry if one is not planning to have children or engage in a sexual relationship. Finally, if she pursues you and asks you to marry her, know that I have been a happy person for the last 30 years and am still treated like a king. Good luck with your decisions. Story 24. I was the grill cook, and she was the salad bar girl. I gave her a ride home, and we stopped at a taco restaurant. I started casual conversation, and she raised her hand and said, "Stop. I'm hungry." I loved her from that moment. Story 25. She understands that I have a disability. She is empathetic and willing to help me in any way she can. That is what I appreciate about her. Story 26. Being as active as I am in engaging and maintaining good, honest communication, I don't see every issue as a deal breaker, but rather as something to work on together. Story 27. She understood. Once, she was expressing her feelings about women's issues, such as the annoyance of being catcalled, and the need to be cautious when alone in the city at night. These are very real issues, and I am not denying or downplaying them. However, her expression became a long rant. Initially, I was understanding and empathic, but after a while, I felt a little hurt when she began discussing how men do this and how men do that. So I gently called her out and said, "I'm a man too, you know? And even though I know you're not attacking me, it hurts a little when you say things like, men are untrustworthy. To me, it feels like you're calling me untrustworthy. Being male isn't easy either. I'm not downplaying what you're saying. It is truly awful. But you don't know how lonely many of us are, how unwanted we feel, and how we often seem to be public enemy number one. It's true that we don't have to be wary at night out of fear of being attacked or raped. It's true that we are not getting catcalled by anyone, and I won't pretend to understand how bad that is since I don't have to deal with it. But imagine never getting smiled at by random people in public. Imagine people fearing you. Imagine never being able to show vulnerability outside of the darkness of your own lonely bedroom without fear of being ridiculed for your hurt. In that moment, her expression revealed empathy. She felt for me, not out of shame or selfishness, but because she recognized the impact of her words. I saw her realization and her growing awareness of how her words affected me. She was so kind. I miss her every single day. Rest in peace, my dear angel. May we meet again. Story 28. I took her fishing, and she baited her own hook without a fuss. Many crappies were caught that day, and she gutted and cleaned them, saying, "My grandpa showed me how to do it since I was a little girl." My response, "Where have you been all my life?" Story 29. She didn't take her phone out the entire time. She offered to split the bill and asked me questions. I was smitten. Story 30. Builds you up. Listens and communicates like an adult. Does not belittle but also challenges growth in herself and yourself. Has an attractive physique. Story 31. Girls who have a smile and seem happy. Girls who are kind to animals. Girls who are polite to servers. Story 32. My wife is a hard worker with incredible discipline when it comes to her job. I believe it's a cultural aspect because she is Mexican. Often, I suggest, "How about we both call in and hang out?" And she responds, "Why would I do that?" She is kind and caring, extremely nurturing, and a natural mother, while I often find myself in a state of panic. She remains calm under pressure and doesn't get rattled by anything. She is direct about her feelings. During our second date, she wanted to be intimate and was quite forward. Although we didn't proceed then, by our third date, as soon as she got into my truck, she said, "Let's go have sex." This straightforwardness has been consistent over the past 13 years. She does not play games. She knows what she wants and expresses it clearly. She rarely gets angry, and if she does, her frustration is directed at the issue, not at people. Everyone says it's the couple against the issue, not against each other. This idea became clear to me when I contrasted my experience with my ex and my wife. She has taught me what a healthy relationship is supposed to look and feel like. This is why I chose to spend my life with her. Additionally, she has a remarkable figure that is truly impressive. Story 33. Laughing, not at you but together when things don't quite work out. There was this girl who borrowed my shirts when she slept at my place. When she eventually changed back into her own clothes, she always folded my shirts nicely and placed them on my bed. I really loved that she was independent and tidy, but not obsessively so. Story 34. I have been told that when I tell partners it's going to be okay, or "I've got this," it can be comforting. I understand that men need reassurance and recognize that societal pressures often unfairly target gender. If I can lighten the load and offer calm support, I will. Story 35. I believe all men seek a woman who can be a beacon of light and support, especially when there is significant pressure on them. This complements the natural beauty that God has given them. Story 36. First date was a snow day in Houston, which is rare. We are not used to cold or snow. We had been talking on the phone for weeks and really liked each other. After dinner, we didn't want the date to end, so we went out for dessert and then for a walk in a park. We started kissing, and she noticed her lip felt a bit wet. When she looked at her fingers, she saw blood and then realized I had a nosebleed. That would have ended many dates, but she laughed and said she was pretty sure we would be trading fluids soon anyway. The second date was to visit my dad in the hospital. She was so kind to him, not to make an impression, but because she saw he was hurting and wanted to help. Story 37. Doesn't overcrowd you and is okay with you being on your own or with friends. It does not think you are cheating every time you leave her sight. Story 38. There was a young woman in my group in the emergency medical technician course at school. The different groups had a race to assess a patient and get them onto a stretcher and into the ambulance outside. We were in last place, and while we were waiting for the ambulance, she looked up at the night sky as it poured rain on us. She lifted her arms with the biggest smile on her face and said, "It's raining and we're losing. I honestly don't know if I've seen anything more beautiful in my life." Something resonated in me that I had never seen before. She was perfect. Story 39. She doesn't focus on her appearance, only on her hygiene. She takes accountability for her actions and only dates for long-term relationships. Story 40. The biggest green flag I have ever seen was when the girl next to me on the plane told me she figured out how to change the water pump on her Volkswagen and did it herself. I was instantly in love. She had another incredible green flag. She asked if I wanted to play Nintendo Switch, and then we played Mario games for 3 hours. Another green flag was that she baked her own chocolate chip cookies, brought them with her, and gave me one. Oh my gosh. I think I'm falling in love all over again. I kind of forgot about her for a few years. Naturally, I haven't seen her again since that one 5-hour flight. Story 41. Taking the time to reflect on past actions and communicate a proper apology makes rough patches or arguments in a relationship easier to manage when you know your partner will actually think about what happened afterward. Many people are short-sighted. If they have an argument or fight, it stains their view of the relationship or the other person, and they rarely reflect on it. If they do, they often ignore their part. It is frustrating to be with someone who never takes accountability for their actions. Story 42. Holding the door open for others and not letting it slam in their faces is important. Many women seem to lack common courtesy, expecting to be the receiver rather than the giver. If a woman holds open a door, she demonstrates good character. Story 43. Everything has always been, "We will figure it out," or "We will get through it. No matter what happens, we handle it together. I'm never alone unless I want to be." Story 44. My wife surprised me on our first date when I went to pay for our meal. She stopped me and insisted that either she pays her half or there would be no future dates. She explained that she values the time we spend together as much as I value the time she chooses to spend with me. She made it clear that I needed to respect her feelings about paying her fair share on our dates, as we both have a mutual desire to be together. Otherwise, we couldn't move forward. I believe that was the moment I realized she could be someone I might marry if she continued to be this amazing. We have been married for 16 years and together for a few years longer. Feels like the best romantic decision I have ever made in my life. Green flag 100%. Story 45. My fiancé quoted King of the Hill the first night we hung out. Not a "that's my purse" or "that boy ain't right." Quotes that avid watchers recognize. Story 46. 20 years ago, I would have mentioned a nose ring. I know it sounds cliché. At that time, it wasn't a rite of passage or as popular as it is now. Typically, it was a sign of a down-to-earth, cool girl. She likely smoked marijuana, loved animals, and had a strong sense of self. 3 green flags for me back then. Story 47. I witnessed a woman eat a huge green cake shaped like a flag. She ate it by herself. Yes, that's the biggest green flag I have ever seen in a woman. Story 48. Private Instagram account. Ladylike behavior, meaning not attention-seeking from a group of men. Not surrounded by a group of male friends, some of whom may be gay. Not a party girl going to clubs or bars during girls' night out. Playful, flirtatious, and mischievous personality that is also respectful. Someone who is family-oriented, selfless, and kind. Someone who does not give the impression of being available to other men. The basic principles. Story 49. On one of our first dates, she paid the dinner bill while I went to the bathroom without mentioning this beforehand. 17 years later, we're still going strong. She is a keeper. Story 50. What is it about walking in the rain? It's not a first date, but 6 months in. One of our first disagreements, and she is quiet. We're walking in our favorite spot when the heavens open. We can shelter under an awning or just continue on with 20 minutes ahead of us. When I say rain, this is Bangkok in the middle of a heavy tropical storm, soaked in seconds kind of storm. Neither of us said a word, but we continued walking and joined hands. We stopped to kiss in the rain, and I knew this was a woman I could disagree with and still find love. That is a significant green flag. You're going to have conflicts with a strong-willed woman. How you move forward each time is key. Story 51. She is a happy person. Not perfect, but completely at peace and content with herself. You don't want to be the reason for anyone's happiness. The relationship might build on the foundation of them finding happiness through you. People who are at peace and happy with themselves don't need validation or outside help to be happy. They know how to have fun but don't require drama or extreme thrills. They can relax at home in quiet or enjoy time with friends at a party. They may have baggage, but it is their baggage, and they won't expect you to carry it. They may share and open up, but they take responsibility for their own feelings. I feel they are most capable of choosing someone for the right reasons and of building a healthy relationship. I always consider a woman's personal happiness level and how she feels about her life before I decide to seriously pursue her. Story 52. We went for ice cream. She knew what she wanted. I mentioned I was getting a kitty size but was deciding on a flavor. She got hers. I picked my order, went to the register to pay, and the cashier said she had already paid. Story 53. When she can admit that she is wrong, it is very rare in women these days. Reading through the comments, it appears I am not the only one who thinks so. Story 54. She does not make my life harder. There is no greener flag. This is how women walk themselves out of most men's lives, by being a pain. We don't need, never will have, nor expect the best women. We take good enough. Story 55. When you don't have to be constantly by their side while with your group of friends, they seamlessly hold their own. I went from a girl who was actively trying to keep me to herself to one who was confident in herself without me, and it was a revelation. Story 56. I'm the first and only person my wife has ever dated, yet she managed to say all the right things when we first started going out. We've been together for almost 25 years. Story 57. Kindness and a positive attitude are infectious. A supportive outlook on life can have a profound impact, while negative and cynical individuals tend to become more entrenched in their views as they age. Story 58. This probably won't make sense to most people, but it is what it is. The first time I met her was when a friend took me by her house to hang out since they were friends. When he knocked on the door, she yelled from somewhere in the apartment to come in. We entered, and she was sitting on a chair with one leg on another chair, stitching up a cut in her leg. Despite not knowing her well, I asked if she needed assistance, as I had stitched myself and many friends growing up. She laughed and said she had it under control but asked me to inspect her stitches when she was done. She did a really good job. When he asked her what had happened, she explained that a customer at the strip club where she worked had attacked one of the girls, and she rushed in to assist the girl, breaking a wooden chair over the man's head. In the ensuing chaos, she was pushed down and cut her leg on a broken piece of chair. When the police arrived and arrested the man, they asked if she wanted to go to the hospital. She declined and decided to go home to take care of it herself. I was impressed by her coolness, calmness, and level-headedness regarding the entire situation. The more I found out about her, the more I liked her. She had only been a stripper for about 6 months. Prior to that, she was a computer programmer making $60,000 a year. While on vacation, she won a couple of amateur contests at strip clubs and realized the potential for earnings. She typically made between $1,500 and $2,000 a night, with some nights being much more. We grew very close, and had I not moved out of state for a job, we may have ended up together. In summary, when I met her, She was in her living room stitching up a cut in her leg that she obtained while defending another girl from an attacker. Story 59-1. Mine made dating simple. I like you, you like me, let's see where this goes. No games. I developed a positive relationship with my mom. I come from a supportive family. Story 60. She sat at a bar, drinking a glass of wine. She spoke with interest and trust before doubt and denial. She tested the subject and moved beyond the moment to learn more, to know for certain. She mastered the system and found more joy, beyond the paycheck and costs of the values they suggested, choosing the ones she cared most about over those with high price tags. She understood her desires were rooted in earning, not merely affording. Trustworthy, honest, and direct with her energy, she actively engaged, showing her worth not just through pampering but through her effort and ethics, embodying greatness in every step. Green flags are significant indicators of how someone makes you feel. The body language and impact of their presence in the shared environment are essential. Trust your internal feelings, allow your mind to communicate clearly, and learn to listen. Even without needing to hear, your mind can notice and access the feelings that develop in moments during connections. Trust yourself. You are not here to deceive regarding your values. Aim to engage with positive energy or body language that reflects character and personality. Assess your abilities against the differing movements of those around you. Do not be afraid to be shy and bashful. Instead, learn to trust your instinctual responses. Even if you make mistakes, improving your skills will help you grow over time. Reflect and adjust as needed. Story 61. She was extremely generous from the beginning. She always offered to split or cover the tip when we ate and didn't mind supplying the alcohol or whatever was on the menu for our late-night meetups. The big moment came when I moved into my new apartment about 4 months into our relationship. She started buying things for the place without me even asking. They were items I didn't think I needed, but she knew I would appreciate them, and she was right. We're still going strong 3 years later. Story 62. I am not sure I have ever experienced positive signs in a woman. I am so terrible at reading people that I must be colorblind to these signs. Story 63. She thinks I'm attractive and no one else. She makes me laugh out loud. Most importantly for every man, she seeks to make you happy. She thinks, what can I do for him? Story 64. Single, doesn't care that I'm older, is rich, and is willing to have sex around the clock. It will be a short relationship, but I guarantee I'll die the happiest man in this group. If she shows genuine care towards others before herself, not just towards me, and is willing to work for a good relationship, that is important. She doesn't speak poorly of others or create unnecessary drama. Some baggage is acceptable, almost everyone has some. Ultimately, being a good person is the main thing. Story 65. I attended a gathering, and she was the center of attention. She wasn't the prettiest, skinniest, or sexiest, but she looked genuinely happy to be there, enjoying herself completely. I wanted to marry her. Story 66. She doesn't overly rely on one friend or source for advice, especially if that friend is biased. My girlfriend talks to a few different friends, both male and female, older and younger, when she needs advice or wants to talk. If it's about an argument, she won't just listen to one perspective. Those who only listen to the echo chamber are raising red flags. Those who consider differing opinions are demonstrating green flags. Story 67. 1. Not concerned about how little money I make. Puts in effort to communicate and meet regularly. Willing to comfort me when I am feeling down. Talks openly about mental health. Story 68. She expressed her feelings for me and shared what she wanted. She gave me compliments and said she was proud of me. I kept her interested even though I didn't feel the same way, because no woman is truly that naive. Story 69. I met a woman who had 2 of the largest breasts I have ever seen, much larger than Dolly Parton. She definitely gave off positive signals. Story 70. Green flags are huge red flags in women who pretend not to be the money-grubbing individuals they naturally are, simply seeking the next person whose life they are about to disrupt. Women have no genuine positive traits. Story 71. I met her online in the 1990s, And for our first date, she gave me her address at the apartment where she lived alone so I could pick her up. When I arrived to pick her up, she wasn't quite ready to leave, so she invited me in. Being treated like a person instead of a threat because of your gender is a significant positive indicator, in my opinion. Story 72. Feminine, submissive, passionate about health and fitness, humble, respectful, dresses well, admits when she is wrong, has a strong relationship with her father, and follows traditional gender roles. Story 73. The biggest, I think they were around 40 liters and had a very slim waist. I was 18 and she was 17. Good times. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.